So I was looking at my trip back to SA, which is next week,
Mm-hmm.
and then I don't remember the sequence of thoughts I had, but I looked back at the trip I took last year on like based on my photos. And I was like, oh, I went for 2 weeks, and this time I was only going for 10 days, and I was like, well, that's kind of short, and all these other thousand factors of things to consider. And basically, long story short, I extended my trip for a month.
And these 10 days are including the 2 days it takes you to get there.
Yeah,
Oh
somewhat.
my God.
Like maybe plus minus one at the end, but
Okay.
yeah. Um, so now it's a month because it was either like 2 weeks or a month. And I think I would have liked the thing in the middle, but at the end I'm seeing it as like fate.
Mm.
Why not see this?
But
Because
you
it
were,
happens to get me back the afternoon of the day before my master's introduction, and then the weekend, and then I start masters on the Monday. So I was like, okay, maybe it's like fate.
yeah.
I
You
don't know.
don't need like a long time to like adjust because you've lived there for 3 years.
I guess not, but I was very close to making a pros and cons list.
But you wrote a message to yourself from your trip last year about.
Yeah, periodically throughout the year last year, I took videos of just like speaking,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, and I was watching it. It wasn't for like me in the future or
Oh,
anything. It
okay.
was
It was
just
just you saying your
that.
thoughts. What
Yeah,
did you think of past you?
God. I don't know, but it made me feel weird.
Yeah.
And then I recorded another video about how I felt weird, and
Um,
maybe I'll look at it next year.
That's nice.
But yeah, I read the
Today
book.
we did read a book. Well, I read the book like a month ago now. About
Yeah. Oh, okay.
actually no, I started reading it about a month ago. I finished it maybe 2 3 weeks ago.
Do you remember which pod you mentioned it in? That you told me to read it.
The one about the anniversary podversary.
Ah, yeah.
I think
Okay.
that's I guess around that time is when I was done with the book.
Mm.
The time that we recorded that, and this book was recommended to me by a friend. So shout out them. It's called Stoner by John Williams, and it's about the life of a man from around World War I through World War II towards like I think he died in the 50s, 60s.
Mm.
Yes, and we just follow the life of this man. And he starts as a farm boy, goes to the University of Missouri first for like agricultural studies, discovers he has a passion for English, and so switches majors, and then becomes an English professor at the university, and we just follow his life there until he dies. First thoughts?
Well, I went in very defensive.
Defensive how?
I refuse to want to believe that um, something is unremarkable. I guess it's my own connotation towards something being unremarkable, you know? So you first said that, and then the first like paragraph of the book says that,
Mm-hmm.
and then all the way till the end, he like assesses his own life, right?
Yeah.
He dies, right? He dies at the end. Although at the end he assesses his own life, and even then it's that.
Mm-hmm.
So everything in me was wanting to like go against that and put meaning and all of that, but in hindsight, it's probably unnecessary. Maybe he was fine with being unremarkable.
I think that was the point. I feel like he is as human as a protagonist of a story can be, right? There is no like intense tragedy of loss or like there's no like great triumphs of like winning stuff in his life. It's kind of just the ups and downs of life. And like the book tells you that from the start, and like it basically tells you this is how his life is gonna go. And so read along. So there are no expectations. There's nothing like there's no building up to this grand telling of a remarkable story. It's I think the whole point is just okay, this is what you should expect and this is what it gives you. And the author's prose, is that what you call it? Like their style is like very just I appreciate just the fact that it's very straight and simple and direct. And I think that's the best way to tell a story is if you can convey your message or the story as simply as possible.
I liked how he basically gave spoilers before
Yeah.
telling the story, because that's exactly why I like spoilers. It
Mhm.
gets me to focus on things as they're happening rather than, trying to figure out what will
Right,
happen.
right,
I
right.
mean, he doesn't like tell you everything, but
Mhm.
it's like how he introduces the book of John William Stoner was not someone who was remembered, and
Yeah.
then throughout the book he'll be like, and that was the last time they ever spoke like that again,
Yeah.
or something like that. Like right at the beginning, it's like, oh wow, okay.
Loved by few, remembered by none, I think was the thing. And I mean, in a way, I feel like that's how a lot of people, like the majority of us in this world, will live a similar life. I think that's what makes it a good story. But I guess if you want to start from the beginning, my first like thought
Mm-hmm.
was how he discovered his passion for English
Mm-hmm.
in that class with Archer Sloan,
Mm-hmm.
and how that kind of like changed the trajectory of his life. And also, I think speaking to the grander like his life in general is just I feel like he wasn't a character that had many, if any, ambitions
Mm-hmm.
in terms of like big, broad goals. He kind of just took like each day one at a time, and then in him discovering his passion for English, it kind of seems like he had. Are you looking at my board?
Yeah, I didn't realize you wrote about it.
I was so on my board. I was just writing like all the things that came to mind, and then in this book, I like ordered it chronologically, so then I wouldn't be all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of preparation into this. But yeah, so it's kind of like he discovers his passion for English, and then it seems like, at least the way it's described, he only just gained consciousness of like he thinks back to his life before, and like he doesn't recognize that man, because I guess that new spirit you find yourself after gaining passion for something. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like, how do you know then if you found a passion yet until it happens?
Right. Okay. Yeah, day by day. Did you judge him for that? Or do you
No,
think he was different?
I didn't judge him for. I mean, I couldn't judge him for anything. Like, I don't know this guy, and I'm just reading about his life, and the only thing I would say, I feel like a part of his life being the way it was the lack of ambition. He didn't seem like the type of person to like fight, quote unquote, fight for what he believed in or what he wanted. It was kind of, he just took everything in his stride, everything that life threw at him. He kind of took it in his stride, and he's a very reactionary person.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like, and I don't know if that is the best way in living.
Well, I think for him, he didn't know any other way. He didn't know to
Mhm.
dream more, dream bigger, because everything that came at him was already like the highest and furthest step he's ever achieved.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I think it was difficult for him to try and make like long-term decisions or any of that.
Mhm.
But he was also very well and highly educated at each point that he was still like making sound judgments. I think, which was a interesting juxtaposition. Sound judgments, like when he uh, realized, like, the loan that Edith took was unfeasible for them
Mhm.
just because he wouldn't be able to pay it back. Like that's what I mean. Like he learned important life lessons like that.
But he let her take the loan in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, we'll get into that whole thing, but yeah.
But even yeah, from the beginning, where like his dad tells him that okay, he's gonna go to university, like he hadn't at that point he hadn't thought of his life outside of the farm or like what he was
Yeah.
gonna do. He was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna do this, and then it just kept going until he did find that passion. And then even then, it was interesting for me how he immediately was like, oh, there's so much to learn. Like he realized how much he had to read and learn about this new subject matter that he had found a passion in, and he thought how little time he had to learn all these things. I feel like that was like a nice way of capturing the like that initial curiosity when you like discover something new. You're always like not overwhelmed, but like a good type of overwhelmed with all the things that you can learn about it, you know?
Mm.
And there's always that feeling of, oh, I don't have enough time because there's so much that I want to do, and this and that and that and that and that and that. I thought that was cool. The next thing, or do you wanna? Was also, I feel like there was conflict between his outward perception versus his perception of himself. I think at one point it was like he said that he looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the person that he saw, or even like in his teaching, like when he was so excited to like start teaching, and when he heard himself, he couldn't like the spark he felt inwards for the subject, he couldn't convey outwardly. And I feel like that's also like kind of played a role in how his life turned out, and the fact that he wasn't able to really like show his true self,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Do you or have you experienced anything like that?
Definitely, I feel like sometimes you imagine yourself in certain situations, and then how it actually plays out doesn't really like live up to, or like even like yeah, the words you say. I think in given a presentation, you like sound so excited, and then sometimes it's like hard to get that excitement across because maybe other things, or you might not be as confident in yourself to be able to like show that inner light that you have for a specific thing. I think that took a lot of working on. I think at the like maybe when I was younger, this is also hard to like compare because he was a grown man. But when I was younger, I definitely remember a lot more times with me like either like reciting something or like talking about something and having that come across just very flat. Versus at least my most recent memory was from like remember data processing,
Mm-hmm.
and I had like my final
Mm-hmm.
presentation, and then the first after I was presenting, the first thing that the TA had said was, yeah, it was very exciting to see how your energy came across in the presentation, or like your passion for the topic. And I mean, it's not something that I was focusing on portraying, but I guess the more you like learn about yourself and become comfortable in your skin, yeah, the easier it is, or the more muscle memory it is to like convey that version of you across.
See, I didn't see it as a thing of like tied to confidence or trust. I saw it more as uh that like wasn't your passion. So he said like, he felt himself speak flatly when he was teaching and becoming another one of those monotonous like lecturers he had attended to himself. But wasn't that also like the freshman class, like the one he wasn't the most passionate about?
No, but it was, I think, at the beginning of the survey class, I think, like, because there was a time where he kind of was able to show that passion,
Yeah.
and he like had a brief stint where like he was popular among the
Mm.
students. But I think at the beginning he wasn't he wasn't that, like, his excitement was very much just contained within.
Mm.
But I guess it's also the thing of, actually no, go ahead, what were you saying?
I also feel like I've attended lectures where I think that the lecturer is very passionate about the subject matter, but their teaching was just incredibly dull.
But how can you tell if they're passionate about it then, if their teaching was so dull?
I guess it was maybe a sense. I'm thinking now specifically of that one. What was that one class that I dropped that you continued? Something in computational science, but like modeling and simulation.
Oh yeah.
That first one, I feel like.
Oh yeah, no, he was a bad lecturer.
Right, but I think he like really liked his subject.
But he was also in his like retirement year.
Yeah. But I mean, I still think he seemed to be interested in what he was talking about. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe he was just a bad teacher. I think
Yeah.
you can be a good researcher and a bad teacher. Like your passion for something doesn't necessarily mean you would be a good teacher of it.
But his inward and outward perception, you said, also expanded to uh I think it was when he like went home to the farm, right? Or something, he realized like he wasn't that person anymore. Or
Mm-hmm.
once he like veered more towards the English side of the world, he worked less on the farm he stayed at as well. Is that also part of this? Inward versus outward perception?
Yeah, but I think even more intriguingly, I think he was most confident because also it's I think it said somewhere that he walked with a hunch. I feel like that's also like a like visually showing you that he's more of like
Hmm.
a shell of what he should be. But when he had his affair, I think was also around the time where he was doing well as his classes. If my
Yeah, life was going well for
Yeah,
him.
exactly. And it's kind of okay. So is it just a thing of he had found love and that gave him the confidence to, or not even the confidence, but allowed him to, I guess, appreciate life more?
Hmm. Perhaps. Okay, interesting. Next. I wanna see all your points.
um. Okay, since we brought up the farm, so his parents are farmers, and that's all they've known. And his wife, or yeah, his wife Edith's dad is a broker,
Mm-hmm.
right? He's a loan guy, loan shark,
No,
banker.
yeah, he owns a
He
bank.
owns a bank.
Yeah.
So something with money. I thought it was very interesting how Stoner and Edith were different, and also how different their parents were. So both of their dads died,
Right.
and I think the way their dads died also is kind of telling of their character and how they face, I guess, uncertainty in life. So Stoner's dad had died of natural causes, and even in his on the day that he died, he knew he was sick, but he still wanted to go out to the farm and like work and harvest the crops and whatever. And that ultimately then led to him dying. He was a very weak and a dying man. Um, as opposed to Edith's dad, who had made a couple of bad calls financially, and which left his bank bankrupt.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the morning of, he had shot himself in the head.
Mm-hmm.
And then we find out that later that wasn't even like a fatal thing for his company, that they recovered nicely. So if he had like, I guess, stayed to like fight the uncertainty, everything would have been fine and he would have still been alive. But just the way he like cowardly died versus, I guess, the more humble death of Stoner's dad, I think also shows in Stoner and Edith's character, where Stoner is very much takes everything, where he said he takes everything on the chin and kind of just keeps going. Like Edith went to his dad for the loan, even though Stoner wasn't up for it. But then when she came back with it, he kind of, okay, I'm gonna like take summer classes and like teach in the summer so we can make extra money to kind of afford this kind of stuff. Whereas Edith kind of like she just shuns away from stuff. So like she like pretended to be sick for like ever. And yeah, like tries to reinvent herself when things don't go her way, like getting new clothes and new hairstyle and all these other things. I think guys kind of just a subtle nod to like how you're shaped by the people around you growing up.
Definitely.
But I think also um just character wise, because Stoner was a farm boy, he didn't have like that many thoughts and ideas of what his life would look like. But I think Edith being like the only child, I mean, Stoner was also an only child, but being like the girl and coming from a more rich family, she kind of had this idea of like, okay, husband, cook for your husband and clean for your husband, have a baby. And so you can see in all these points, like when she just kind of followed along with what this plan was, and it didn't turn out how she wanted it, and so she kind of lived a miserable life. I mean, Sona also lived the not miserable but unremarkable life, but also in a lot of parts very miserable from that lack of ambition. And then I think Edith also lived a miserable life from, I guess, unrealized potential.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was interesting how, like, I guess, can you say one is the opposite of the other? Maybe, but then they all like ended up with the same fate, which was also kind of raw and scary.
Interesting your takes on these things. Uh, okay. Next.
Oh my, okay, I'm just gonna go through all of it then.
Yeah.
And then you can say. So that was my character comparison with Edith and Stoner. Um, Dave Masters. Remember that guy?
Yeah, of course.
I
The
think.
first thing I thought of when I was reading that monologue was, I bet Caleb would understand and like can explain this to me.
Okay, so I don't like fully get. I was trying to like 30 minutes ago like really get it.
Yeah.
But he basically talks about the role of the university in the lives of these three people.
Yeah.
Gordon Finch, Stoner himself, and Dave Masters, who is giving this monologue. It's a long monologue. I would have read it, um, but it was quite long. So he basically says Gordon Finch is not bright enough for the outside world.
Mm-hmm.
And so he stays in university. He's not bright enough for the outside world, but he's bright enough to know that he will fail in the outside world. And so he stays at the university where he thinks it's like an instrument for good. And so that's why Gordon Finch stays there. He says that for himself, Dave Masters, that he's too bright for the world and that would lead to his failure on the outside. And so he is happy to stay at the university and he says he can say whatever and get paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then for Stoner himself, he says that he's bright enough. He's bright enough, brighter than Gordon Finch, but he's also a dreamer, and that's that he thinks there's something at a university for him, or that he thinks of the world something that it does not desire to be, something that it does not. I think that comes from his this naivety comes from, I guess, maybe his passion for literature. I guess like the idea of escapism
Mm-hmm.
that we talked about pre-recording. I think
Talked about that's
like
generous.
mentioned pre-recording.
I said, "Hey, have you heard of escapism?" You said, "I don't think that was in the book," and that was the end.
Uh, that was a conversation. It was a short conversation, but we did talk about it. I think that idea of like, I guess maybe likening the literary world, yeah, to the real world, and like kind of expecting these things of like the romantic, like, because I think literature, a lot of things are exaggerated. So he's probably like imagining the romanticism of like love and passion and writing a book and being an English professor and all these things that like kind of just work well as a good story for him, but that is not what the world is. And also keep bear in mind that this is during the time of the World War I, so I guess
This is just before.
just
Yeah.
before. Oh,
Yeah.
then I don't know, but Stoner is a dreamer and he is bright enough to know that he will not be successful in the world, but he dreams of this idea of the world that it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought that that was like, I guess, foreshadowing of his character in that sense that like he has like as a teacher, as an English teacher, he's okay. Like he's a good teacher. He's had times where he's been a great teacher, but he's a good teacher.
Mm-hmm.
All the other things that kind of put him down were things from the outside world, right? Things with his family, with even work politics, with I forget the guy's name.
Lomax.
Lomax. Yeah, it was reasons outside of just the university and his work that kind of beat him down. So I just thought it was more for foreshadowy monologue than anything else. I couldn't really read much into it. I'm pretty sure if I spent more time, there would be like a lot more things that would get revealed. But that's all I could find. What did you think of it first time?
Okay, it was very confusing.
Yeah.
A lot of things were confusing, but that seemed important and confusing.
Yeah.
So the way I interpreted it was that who does he speak about first? Stoner.
No, he speaks about Finch first.
I also think he speaks about Finch first. Okay, first he talks about how they perceive the university, and then he
Yes.
speaks about them separately. Definitely Stoner sees the university as like a place. I think he sees it as somewhere that's very pure, with the beauty, and then it's a place where people work together and like everything you need or like need to know or can learn is just here, and you can always learn more, and it only improves you, right? So I feel like he's a bit naive in that way. And then uh yeah, okay, I don't really understand. I think to Finch, he says that Finch um sees I suppose the thing you can get out of it. The fact that you just have to be a little bit intellectual. You can teach these sort of like naive students, and you'll get paid. And then he does the assessments. So for Finch, he says that he's a little bit incompetent, but he's not ruthless enough to be like malicious, but he's also not like selfless enough to do everything for the world. Yeah, in the same way that like he's not dishonest, but then he also just doesn't tell the truth all the time, and he's like a little bit lazy and all of that. So then he talks about failure for both of them. In the world, you'll always be on the fringe of success, and you'll be destroyed by your failure. Both of these assessments took me aback, because like, what does that mean to tell your peer, your close peer, your friend, about how they're going to fail in a very definite way? Like telling him that you'll always be so close to like success, but you'll fail. And also how they would have interpreted and accepted that. Like, if that's what you believe you're going to do, that's probably like what's going to happen. But Finch is laughing through all of this. So Finch is either like good natured, or he is able to separate what someone else is saying versus himself. But yeah, he says that like it's safe for him there at the university, and Finch is at least smart enough to know that. And then for Stoner, yeah, it's exactly what you said, that he's naive, and then you're like, you think there's something here, something final in the world you'll learn soon enough. You two are cut out for failure. Not that you'd fight the world.
Exactly. And he doesn't. And all the things that come his way. Like, he tried a little when he was fighting Lomax with the thing about Lomax's
Walker, right?
with his student. But even then he gives up. But continue.
Yeah. And then for Masters himself, he says that he's incredibly arrogant. And at least in academia, it won't beat him up the way the world would if he were to leave there. And that the university exists just as like, I suppose, they say like an asylum for, I suppose, like the lost, right? It's a place to be. It's kind of like a place to hide, a place to protect you. It's its own world that will shield from everything else. And then the thing, so not like on top of this, it's already super confusing because it's how they're introducing these characters. The thing that really got me was when he said, when Stoner was thinking about Master's monologue, because he said that it came up to him a few times, and then I think it reminded him of the corrosive and unspoiled bitterness of youth. He said that, I think, of the relationship between the three of them. And that I don't understand. These specific words, corrosive and unspoiled bitterness of youth. Unspoiled, I'm assuming naive. Why bitterness? Like you're like pessimistic maybe.
Mm.
But of youth is usually the
I guess
opposite, right?
talking about from when they were younger, right?
He's talking about when Masters had said that their relationship then, because that was the only time they had that relationship between the three of them.
And what was the context in which he was thinking of it now? Was it after he found out that he was gonna die, or somewhere?
He said it was only when he would think back of like that conversation, the relationship between them. Again, it wasn't clear. I'm assuming it's a little bit of like the wording, but I think he's referring to the relationship and not specifically the assessment Masters made.
Which look back at that. Who do you think you relate to the most out of the three in terms of assessment?
Stoner.
Yeah, of being a dreamer and knowing. But the thing is with Stoner, so Stoner only knew the farm and the university, and he doesn't even remember much of the farm, so he's only ever known the university.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense that he applies this kind of safeguarded place that like protects you from like the outside world, but kind of applies his view of that to everywhere else because that's all he knows. So I guess maybe that's where the naivety is coming from.
That I understand, but like, yeah, okay. What I ended up writing was, I'm uncertain about the message or the lesson to be learned here. Masters appears a wise person, or I'm not smart enough to see through his BS. That was my final thought with that.
Yeah, something definitely worth revisiting, maybe.
Okay, yeah.
I don't have a, okay. I have midlife crisis versus urgency of death. I think around the time where he's like in his early 40s, he like I think maybe this also after he's been beat up a bit by the system.
Yeah.
And he seems very
Downtrodden.
down. Yeah. He's like in the long where is it? In the long run, all things, even the learning that let him know this, were futile and empty, and at last diminished into a nothingness that they did not alter. And then he says he could see nothing before him that he wished to enjoy, and little behind him that he cared to remember. So he's very much like down and out in the world. But then I think soon after he finds out that he's going to die. And it was so interesting to me that after that meeting with the doctor, he's like, oh, there's so many things that I need to do before. And he's like, he extends his thing by 1 week and he doesn't want to like retire. And there's so many things that he like wishes to finish up before the clock ticks down to zero. And I was just interested in why that sudden switch. Is it just the fact that I guess maybe knowing you're going to die, you kind of feel a renewed sense of urgency to like one last fight to like have something meaningful happen.
I don't think he was in like using that time to, say read all the books he still needed to read. I think it was to like tie up the loose ends in his life and like his commitment to his craft, which also mirrors how his dad died, right? He continued to work even though he was frail. Because I think in that time, Stoner, he wrote like all the things his students would still have to do for the dissertations he was looking over. He wanted to like warn Lomax about the like, tell him in time that you need a replacement and to like have things in place, I suppose.
But even in that, why that sudden switch when before he seemed like nothing really, he seemed to understand the idea that nothing really mattered and that he has nothing to really care for.
Because I think he still hold on to the sanctity of like university and its education, but he at like no point was he technically like a bad teacher. Maybe he was bad just because he wasn't the most charismatic. I don't know. But he always did the work. He was smart enough to be there. He put in the hours, whatnot. He made an effort. So I think that like persisted for him, because the alternative is to what? To like what's to say? What, to like bathe in self pity? There we go, right? And just like feel and watch yourself die, right? and like
But I
giving
think
up.
it's very telling that I feel like if you ask anyone if they find out they're about to die, they'd be like, "Oh, spend time with friends and family or like loved ones." But I guess Stoner really didn't have any loved ones. His wife hated him. His daughter had like forced herself to get pregnant by a person that she did not really love just to get out of the house for her hate of her mom and the fact that her dad just stood there and watched. Um, and I guess he was friends with Gordon Finch, but also not really. Like it became more of like a friendship from time than from spending a lot of time together. And I guess his only passion, if you can really call it that anymore, was for English literature. But even then, his passion for that had been turned into something that he kind of resented at times. The fact that he had to teach this freshman class that he hated so much, and maybe he got a small win in the end of like being able to teach the class that he liked. Again towards the end, but it's just yeah, in your dying days, weeks, months, if you turn to work, I guess it's kind of like there's nothing else out there for you.
Yeah. It's kind of like the one thing that didn't go entirely wrong in his life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean it's the thing that brought him there. It was his passion that he chose above all else, and what carried him through all the other things that happened to him.
Do you think he should have followed his passion, or do you think he should have stuck with agricultural studies? If knowing now what we know about how his life turned out.
That's a thing you could say for many parts of his life. Um, no, I think this was perhaps the better outcome.
Of still, I guess, still having something that
This,
he had a passion for.
I mean, that's why I was so against this whole classification of unremarkable. It's only unremarkable if you see it that way or if you
Mm.
objectively feel the need to classify it as so. But subjectively, you look at like the highs in your life, the good things,
Mm-hmm.
the fact that you did find your passion. I think that should be sufficient to say that you lived a life worth living, quote unquote. You know, objectively, yeah, sure, maybe he wasn't remembered. Did he want to be? If he did, then okay, yeah, then maybe unremarkable. But it's how you see it, no?
Yeah, and I think even on his, if we can call it deathbed, he was sitting outside. He didn't even have a bed, which is crazy. I mean, he kind of had that exact train of thought where at first he's kind of not being swallowed by self pity, but like kind of being hard on himself, and he's like, and he wanted to be a teacher, and he had become one. Yet he had always known that for most of his life, he had been an indifferent one. He had dreamed of a kind of integrity, a kind of purity that was entire. He had found compromise and the assaulting diversion of triviality. He had conceived wisdom, and at the end of the long years, he had found ignorance. And what else? He thought. What else? What did you expect? And then kind of what did you expect goes on into how he wanted love and found his wife, and kind of that wasn't what he really wanted it to be, and kind of asking himself, what do you expect? And kind of being hard on himself all these times. And this is like in the last couple of pages, and as he's about to die. But then in the end, he says that he dimly recalled that he had been thinking of failure as if it mattered. It seemed to him now that such thoughts were mean, unworthy of what his life had been. So he kind of does come to this
Yeah.
reconciliation of, okay, yes, there were lows and a lot of lows,
Mm.
but the highs of when discovered his passion for literature and found purpose within his life, and that kind of gave him a new sense of consciousness to like go forth and become an English teacher, or when he had so much fun with teaching the class that he enjoyed and having students over and etc. And the times where he really bonded with his young daughter and stuff like that, I guess are the parts of his life that he would look to remember. But I think it's also quite telling though of how, I mean, that's how it was received as the life of an unremarkable man, and that's how it was written to be by the author. If he's that's how he introduces the book. So maybe it's like a more of a broader telling of, I guess, how we imagine what a good life should be versus an unremarkable one. But then the bitter truth is, if this is how we are classifying it, then I think majority of people, if not almost everyone, would have lived an unremarkable life by the end of their days.
Is that the rest of your list?
No, I have one more extra, but that was kind of that was the last one.
What's your extra?
Oh, my extra was a thing on love, because I think in his affair, he had said something or thought something. Um, it was a very interesting way of looking at the idea of love. Where in his 43rd year, William Stoner learned what others much younger had learned before him, that the person one loves at first is not the person one loves at last, and that love is not an end, but a process through which one person attempts to know another. Right?
Yeah, that was also stuck. That also stuck out for me.
Because I guess you kind of, so if you describe love as the process, like in what we call now getting to know someone, I guess it kind of makes sense. But for me, at least, the way I've been thinking of it is the end. It's like you find love, right? Like you get to know someone, and at the end, you find out whether you love them or not. But he kind of rephrases it as the process of getting to know someone, and so you're kind of trying to fall in love. I don't really know, but I thought that was a very interesting way of saying it, because then if you compare how he was getting to know Edith versus how he was getting to know Catherine, there was a lot more love in his getting to know process of Catherine than of Edith, given that they got married within a week of knowing each other. And even in their like two conversations that they had, she barely spoke. And so I guess in that phrasing, you would say, mm, like, sure, like the end goal of marriage was achieved with Edith, but then that process that he's referring to was a lot more love filled with Catherine. Maybe that's one of his mistakes he made in life that he might acknowledge as a mistake. Do you think he made any mistakes, or not mistakes, regrets?
I think he had opportunities to make different choices, but the
Mhm.
fact that he didn't make them uh, was the way he wanted to live life. So I don't know. He did it for him.
If you lived the life of William Stoner, would you have any regrets?
Um, it's so hard to say just because he, he really like learned as he lived
Mm-hmm.
in a very different manner than the way we do.
Mm-hmm.
And reading this book, I guess it 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 pointed to like this fear I have of living an unremarkable life. It reminded me of the thing you said in the podcast that disappeared, of like you just want to make an impact and that's what you want to know.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's all you know, I suppose,
Mm-hmm.
like at this point. And that's probably not how,
Mm-hmm.
and it made me think of all the times that someone's success has carried after they've died. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think Stoner is reflective of its author,
Mm-hmm.
who also only gained traction for this book long after it was published. And then it made me think of things like Van Gogh and like The Great Gatsby, not The Great Gatsby, To Kill a Mockingbird. I can't remember which one it was. And it made me think back of your thing of making an impact that you, at the moment, you don't know how or what that means for you. And even if you were to specify it, it might work against you in the end, and that there's just so many unknowns.
Yeah.
So it spoke to that fear a lot, which I guess was sobering. And then
That's a good word, sobering.
thanks.
The whole
The whole like shtick about this book is that it's the life of an unremarkable person, objectively unremarkable, and it's agreed and known by people worldwide, and that this is probably the life that most people will live, right? Um, and what is that supposed to mean for you?
Yeah. I don't know. For me, it also spoke to the fear of like not being ambitious enough in like bar the whole impact thing, because that's also something that I have not rethought but have considered rethinking on what exactly that means and if that's really like a good measurement of how I should live, you know. But yeah, that idea of like just lacking a bit of ambition in like we don't know if he could have pushed himself to like worked harder on his book or like fought harder to like do more at the university. But then also this is also speaking to just like a very common understanding of success where like for me, like when I was reading, I was like, oh, why didn't he want to be like what was it, the dean or something? Like whatever, chairman of the department. Like why was he so content with just being the English professor that he's been for these many years? Like it seemed to me that he had no sense of upward mobility, even when like it was clear they had a bit of financial struggle, and that would in the very least alleviate some of that. I think not it did reveal some frustration in me for the character, but I guess it was more of like a thing on this is just how we're conditioned to see life, where like it's not about a lot of the it's more about the tangibles than the intangibles, things like impacts that can be measured and seen and immediately called to, than the non-tangible things like on someone's life or the people around you, albeit he didn't have that many good people, like he didn't have a good support circle, but just the idea of like not even looking to that and focusing on like career wise and stuff like that, that was also a sobering thought for me for like, okay, maybe yeah, it's not just about showing you this is an unremarkable life and this is how most of you live, but also this is an unremarkable life because we are classifying it as such. And so
Exactly.
if we, yeah, like you said, if we look at it from a more subjective lens, maybe that's just how we should take that's what we should take from the book in terms of looking at our own lives and being more subjective with maybe kinder to ourselves in terms of what we consider remarkable and unremarkable, you know. And it was so funny because the friend who suggested the book to me, when we talked about it, I didn't want to say anything at first because I was so interested in how he took it. And his first thing was to me was like, just it changed me as a man and how um he just took everything like a G. I was like, that is not what I took from the book. But I can understand. I can understand. Like, I feel like because depending on your mindset going into reading the book, that could very much be an outcome that you take from the book. Like, oh, he didn't complain. Like, he shut up and just did the work, and that's what you will take from the book. And I mean, there's no wrong way to interpret a book, but I think a more fruitful way. I mean, obviously, also biased because this is what we're just talking about. It would be like that subjective nature of okay, not everything that doesn't have an accolade attached to it has to be unremarkable.
I think it also is how we like define unremarkable, right? Like it's the connotation, like it should just be fine for something to be unremarkable, I suppose. But definitely of the whole like the be happy for your like yourself and not have these things affect you. My initial thought actually after the first chapter was that it's difficult not to project my own circumstances onto the story. And from there, I knew that it would severely have an influence over how I perceive the book and everything in it. I definitely agree with the assessment of basically he doesn't seem like he's a bad person because yeah, he takes the bad things as they come. He gets through them. He doesn't seem malicious. He doesn't seem like someone who's given up, who just wallows in self-pity every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also we don't get enough details to know more, to be able to say more, but it seems like that. I guess it's quite strange to, maybe more books are like this and I just don't know
Yeah.
enough. But it's quite strange to like read, basically like birth to death
Of a person. Yeah.
of this person and like take it as what not to do, I suppose.
Kinda.
Right? I opened like a brief Reddit thread about it, and there were quite a few comments from middle-aged people saying like, this got me to move away from like the country I was in. It got me to change jobs. It got me to all these things. I was like, I can't. It's like, wow.
It can very much do that as well. Yeah.
I imagine so, but then I look at it and I think, gosh, I hope I don't go through that. I hope I have a better sense of myself
Yeah.
before, I'm 37 and I'm figuring that out. Even though that's fine, it's just if I could prevent it, I would.
Yeah. It might be one of those books I mean, I feel like maybe a lot of books are like that, but I think it is one of those books you might want to reread at different stages of your life because you might extract different things from it.
Definitely. It definitely is based a lot on the experiences you've had in your own life. And just, I suppose, give you perspectives into another. I mean, for a period of time, that was all I wanted to know. All I wanted to know was how another person in this world was going through their everyday. Just because the only one I know is of myself. And I wanted some sort of like a baseline, like, is this okay? And then you're faced with the whole confusion of, like, what's okay for you will be different from someone else, and all these things.
There's been an interesting rise in a trend of like day in the life, and it's just showing like for 9 to 5, like regular, average white guy is somewhere in the middle of nowhere in America, and he's like, it's not flashy, but it's okay, and I enjoy it. And then he's like, wakes up like 7 a.m., goes on a run, 9 a.m. goes to the office, come back home, blah, 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 blah. It's like a very mundane lifestyle, but then it's like being romanticized in a sort of way. I mean, I guess that's just what social media does. But I just thought that was kind of funny considering like what this book is.
Exactly. In fact, I think you've captured the crux of all social media and why it's so popular, and especially this thing of day in the life or what I eat or what I do, what I did. It's that people are so desperate to know what like others are doing, and to do better by the rules like society has set. I think it's also, well, again, it's in the last podcast. If I could take a break from everything, because I think that's how you like truly find yourself or like figure out who you are, right? When there aren't these social norms. But we took very different things out of the book.
Yeah.
So I went into it knowing we'd speak about it, so I wrote down everything. I thought chapter by chapter. There's 17 chapters. Oh, I just dropped water on myself. And there's nothing like particularly much, I suppose. I was very confused by Edith.
Yeah.
Especially, so she was introduced in chapter 3, and they're like destined to be wed after, and she seems like erratic from the get-go, but not in a way that she's like manic, just in a way that she seems like a shell of a person. And we still don't know more about it. And then I said, Stoner seems reckless in his like underexposed world, and maybe like Edith is traumatized, I don't know, because of the way Stoner fell in love with her. Like, it was sort of a love at first sight thing, but the way he chased it, I think, was telling that he hadn't been through enough in life, maybe, to make like more sound judgments. I don't know. And then their honeymoon came after that, which is also so strange, because you're going to see that they're like more and more incompatible just because I wrote this. It's like they're trying to be like human based on what they've been told. So Edith by her parents and Stoner from the literature he's read. He's like, this is what people do and all of that. And that, ends up being what failed Edith. because she explodes and her father dies, basically. It's like her sign that the norm is broken, right? And Stoner, again, this is what I mean by like he's a sound human being. He could be worse if you came from that state. I keep thinking of Flowers for Algernon, actually, throughout this book.
Yeah.
That Stoner probably at some point could have been an asshole. In fact, everyone in life is an asshole at some point. And he doesn't appear to have been that. And I think maybe it's because he read a lot. Maybe morality is painted a lot clearer in books, and he figures himself out through that. I have no idea how they felt when they had their child, Grace. And then halfway through the book, I said, "Is this how like some lives go?" And he got nearly everything he wanted.
Yeah.
Why would I say that halfway through the books? Edith went crazy. Poor Grace. Why is Edith doing this? Walker. Oh my god, the Walker thing? That was a huge turning point. Basically a very charismatic student.
Charismatic.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Sounded annoying as fuck.
Yeah. He has someone who has what did they say? Like he's like surfed through life, something with the word surf, I can't remember. But he's gotten by being like a smooth talker or something, but also being somewhat intellectual. And then he gets into Stoner's class, and basically Stoner has to call him out, and then the person who's the head of their department then holds a grudge on Stoner for the rest of his life, and that's sort of the turning point, right? Stoner fought for what he believed in, worked against him. His life kind of went a little bit downhill after that.
And it's interesting because that was the only time that he really like had a backbone, and I guess it backfired.
All right, some
But
people.
why then? I guess maybe because it had to do with his first love or passion, which was English literature, and or because remember how we talked about Dave Masters and how what he thought Stoner believed the university to be. I think he tried to stand for what he believed the university to be, and yeah, that ended up backfiring. Like I guess if you grow backbone in a situation that ends up not working well for you, you never grow, and because he never did.
Maybe it was like the first time he was challenged in that way as well, but his sense of what was right and wrong was very, very clear then. But yeah, he got vindicated by, afterwards when he was, able to, I don't know, temporarily keep the student out of the school. Also, yeah, tying in with what Dave said about the whole, this is like the type of people that we need to keep out.
But even the idea of him knowing what's right or wrong. I mean, we don't know if his judgment of the guy was skewed by his feelings for Catherine, because Catherine was in the class and he had attacked Catherine in his speech. Maybe he's not an all righteous person. Maybe he was affected a little. I mean, he was validated in the I guess the thesis defense thing, where the other professors kind of saw for him that this person might not be fit for the university. But I think that was could very much have been fueled maybe a little bit extra by him attacking Edith and not Edith, but Catherine. I don't know. Just a thought.
I mean, it seemed sound, no?
Yeah. We're hearing it from. No, it's not in the first person. Never mind. But we're kind of seeing it through.
It's interesting that you tie that to that instant. Okay. And then after that, he starts to disassociate, and it's like he's giving up. but he's not making a big deal out of it. He's taking it on his chin. He's going with it, right? What did I say? Ah, hell, of course. Okay, the infidelity.
Yeah.
He cheats with Catherine.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of that?
I mean, we knew that he was gonna cheat
Mm-hmm.
from the opening chapter. I didn't have particularly strong feelings towards against his infidelity. I mean, he was very unhappy at home. He didn't even sleep in the same room. And Grace had started. Wait, was this before or after Edith had started taking Grace from him? But yeah, besides
Oh,
that's besides the point. I didn't feel particularly negative towards him for that. I don't know.
I didn't feel negative towards him, but I felt that I couldn't have an opinion because if I, if I thought God should spite him, then I feel like it would make me righteous.
Mm-hmm.
But if I empathized, then it felt like I was, giving him a pass uh, just because you could understand why he does it doesn't mean it's not wrong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, I can't choose. I can't think anything about it, I suppose. But I don't like that that's how life goes, I suppose. It's in quite a few books that I've read that, you know, they build it up. They tell you exactly like the things that led them to cheat. And Edith was fine with it. She attributed to something men do in their 40s.
Mm-hmm.
If I was cheated on, I've always said this, that I was like, I could probably get through the first time or something. Like, I think a lot of people are that way, right?
What do you mean get through the first time?
Like
Forgive. That is strong.
I know you boys not maintain that, but I don't know. Nothing's black and white, right? And then I said the bleak seeing the bleak. I liked how they separated though. Him saying that they're separating because anything else would be like a destruction of themselves, like each individual. And I like how she left, that she planned it.
But do you think that they were in love?
Absolutely.
You don't think it was a function of just the situation that he found himself in? Because that's what most affairs are. Like a strong mercy.
Um, what that he would wake up one day and regret what he did to his wife, to his child.
No, just that.
It wasn't love, it was lust.
Yeah,
And
I
like
guess.
spur of the moment and
Mm-hmm. And also because he doesn't have a definition to tie this feeling to outside of his experience with Edith and from the books that he's read.
to love someone who doesn't love you back is a hard thing because that's what happened to him initially with Edith. He said that he knew in that moment he was in love,
Yeah.
and at no point ever was that reciprocated to him. So I don't think I can be one to question whether that was actual love, right?
Mm-hmm.
He says it was. I'll have to take his word.
Because he defines love as the means and not the end.
I guess I don't like fully agree with that, or just because it was so vague, I kind of, applied it to what we know today of the whole, like love grows and changes, and you kind of have to like change with it. I mean, that's what gets marriages through, right? You go through these phases. So it's like, okay, maybe that's what he means, like by a process, instead of just one thing. But also, I mean, that said, like you can either like 1,000 types of love.
Yeah.
Um, but I would say so. And it seemed reciprocated.
Yeah. Or maybe because it was his first time having that being reciprocated. I mean, bar his daughter, but that's a different.
Yeah. I feel like if he had just dated a bit and like, you know, in the translation of like this day and age, this is just how those relationships go. I believe I was in love in my past, the relationship before the recent one. I remember in the moment I thought I was. I can't really remember how now if I think back, you know? But it's like, okay. Yeah, and then oof, seeing his daughter start getting like taken away from him, and him saying that like that was the start of the war his wife had planned against him, and all of these things, and how they'd never be happy, both his daughter and his wife. That was
I don't
really
know why.
rough.
I don't know why he didn't grow a backbone in that situation. He just let it all happen.
So what I mean, but like there are choices he made.
Yeah.
I don't know why he didn't leave Edith. Maybe it was a reflection of that time.
Perhaps.
I don't know what was wrong with Edith. She seemed insane.
I think it's just a thing of not having it her way.
Like just being
Or not
so
having
oppressed,
it
and then
as she was promised or expected from her parents on how her life ought to go. It's
but
my only interpretation of
but I think it's the opposite, because I think she just started to rebel against this whole what you need to do as a wife and like your duties as a person, because that's what she was like taught her whole life. And then once she was like set free, I suppose by the death of her father, she like just wanted revenge on the world and for that belief. Remember, she switched off like a little bit more when the last thing that Stoner's parents said to her was like, you know, you be a good wife to my son. He's like a good man, something like that. Then she froze or something like that.
Interesting.
That's what I think of that. Yeah. Why she waged a war against him, I have no idea. I mean, it just actually, for what I know about manipulative behavior, sometimes it's like she just wanted to provoke him, that, you know, it was just what he represents and not necessarily what he was. That's why, you know, when things were going well for him, she had to ruin it, and all these things. And even crazy people can have moments of peace sometimes. Yeah, and then seeing Grace seem to grow up on the right path, but have everything go bad was difficult. Yeah, I don't know why he didn't do more. Maybe that's when you can judge him as a person.
Anything else that in your notes?
He just looked at everything like very differently to how I did. What does that say? Oh, okay. That was a new word. There's so many new words in this book. I don't know if you have the same thing.
Probably.
Furtively, perilantly, inimical. What stood out for you most in this book?
I can't pinpoint one thing. It was just the list of like all these things that I have on the board and wrote it, just literally just came all out at once. There was no like one strong thing that stood out for me. Yeah.
You took it as a lesson of ambition. You should be more ambitious.
I think that was the initial thing, yeah.
Do you think he should have like done things differently?
Um, I respect his. I respect and envy him discovering
His passion.
his passion and following it.
He had a few out of body experiences, which I took note of. The first being in that class with Sloan.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Others?
huh?
Others?
I think when at like points when he was teaching, some of the good times,
Yeah.
and I think when he was maybe reading like Catherine's dissertation. I can't remember. I think there was a few, and I can't imagine how that must be like.
Yeah.
I didn't even fully understand the first time he experienced it with the class with Sloan. And I also don't understand why he chose not to go to the war. He chose not to enlist.
Yes.
Why like Sloan changed his perspective of Stoner after that.
I don't know if it was his I think I thought it was my interpretation was more just his perspective on the university and the students because we see a similar thing happen to Stoner during World War II. I think it's just the thing of souls giving or young souls giving their life for like worldly things. I guess as a literature professor, you would be more concerned about the nurturing of the mind than fighting for the spoils of the earth. I don't know. Was the way I read into it just because it had happened well, not the exact same way, but like it mirrored itself in Stoner's behavior during the Second War.
It was also significant to me how like he said he spent 2 days thinking, right, about whether to enlist or not. And Sloane's I suppose advice to him was to consider like the path that Stoner was on, and basically what Stoner did in Stoner God Stoner what Stoner did in that moment was he considered his work and I suppose his passion worthy and significant enough to not enlist and to live with the consequences of that decision for the rest of his life. I thought that was really interesting because that was the start of his career. That was before he even started teaching.
Yeah.
What could he possibly even doing that would make him like feel that he was above? Maybe it was above, but he said he wasn't like afraid of dying. Maybe he thought that he might die.
But he wasn't afraid of it. I think his passion was strong enough to trump. I don't think he was. First of all, I don't think he was a patriotic person, and I guess he wasn't that influenced by the pressure of his peers.
I mean, that was the initial friction between him and Finch, right? That Finch enlisted, and nonetheless, he also got accepted into to do his like PhD.
That's because Finch came back. Dave Masters died. He could have turned
Yeah,
out like Dave Masters.
he could have. Yeah.
I guess maybe it wasn't the fear of death, but the fear of not pursuing this passion that he had. If I were passionate about something, you wouldn't opt not to do it if you're already doing it. I think it's a different thing if he hadn't started it yet versus him in the middle of it and choosing to like sidetrack himself. That would seem counterintuitive.
And all that in like the mere 3 years he had been studying at that point.
Yeah.
And being a young probably I think he was like 23 at that point or something. Actually, he was born in 89. Yeah. Maybe we just haven't experienced that passion. You also realize like nowadays for me this is like the time for a quarter life crisis. Assuming I live to like 80. Actually, 80 would be for you.
What?
This is like time for your quarter life crisis, assuming you live
Did
to
you
80.
have a quarter life crisis?
No,
Is that
I'm
even
not
a thing?
sure. Yeah, it's been thrown around sometimes. Quarter life crisis, midlife crisis, but I think it's just people putting labels to things. Hmm. Okay. Did you rate this book well?
Yeah, it was a good book. I haven't gotten into the habit of rating books the way I do movies, so I don't know. It was a good book, good read. I don't like. I'm glad that I read it. There are some books where I feel indifferent to reading after I've read it, but this one I'm glad that I did read it.